Can everybody listen? Yeah. Good afternoon to everybody. Let's start and talk about cellular energy, very similar to the previous lecture. Electricity is energy at the speed of the light. It can be normalized the atoms. The DNA bases carry the message of the atom, and the message is gargled when the energy field is slow. Just like a record played too slowly, it can equalize its normal energy, of the sick atom, by slowly raising its energy to normal and making its message decipherable. In few words, if the cell does not have energy, don't expect to have normal functions. The cell is an energy unit, and we have to see the cell, the skin cell, or every cell as energy unit. If it loses the energy, it doesn't function. So whatever we put on the skin, either cream or the cellular or serum or cleanser, it must give energy, or at least it has to maintain the energy, because this is important. If the cream or the serum or the soap is not the proper one, it takes energy from the cell. This is important to remember for the next. We are living in the energy world. Maybe you know that it is called quantum world, that is changing the knowledge we have today about what's going on around us and what is going on inside us and what is going on in our skin. And you remember what we are based on the Einstein theory. Energy equal mass, C square, light square. And if I would like to see what am I as mass, I have to change the equation to M equal energy divided by light square. What am I? I'm asking you, what am I now? As material, energy light. So we have to see the skin as energy light. And let's see the scientific, let's go a little bit to the science. Every organ produces its own electromagnetic field in the 70 trillion cells. But 99% of these cells are real cells or microflora. The 99% is in the microflora that it gives energy to the cell. Remember, I have to give energy. So I have to feed what? The microflora with the skin, with the cream, or the serum, or cleanser, or whatever I put on my skin. And let's now go to the introduction. Everything that I put in the skin, based on the light device, based on the energy device, laser, based on the radio frequency devices, whatever we put on the skin, it gives energy. So the important is to see what is taking energy from my skin. And my skin is becoming premature aged, or my skin has aging spots, or wrinkles, or dermatitis, or any other skin disease. What it gives? Antibiotics. If I put antibiotic on the skin, it takes energy from the skin. Because antibiotics, what is the meaning of antibiotic? Anti-bios, anti-life, against life. So antibiotic is taking energy from the cell. What else? Cosmetic. Improper cosmetic. If I put improper cosmetic on my skin, it takes energy from the skin. So it makes premature aging. And also it creates, what it creates? Aging spots. What it takes? Energy from the skin. Which cosmetics takes energy from the skin? The cosmetic that takes energy of the skin is the cosmetic or the makeup that has pH abnormal. That means it breaks down the pH homeostasis of the skin. And a lot of cosmetics and a lot of cleansers and a lot of serums, they break down the physiological pH of my skin or microflora. That means it takes energy, reduced cellular energy. So they damage the skin. And the first thing, let's say, product I would mention is makeup. The makeup normally, it's for a temporary use. Don't wear it every day or many hours. It damages the skin. Whatever it is, it damages the skin. Why? It breaks the pH homeostasis. Not to mention the other things. Remember now how anything that I put on the skin, it reduces the cellular energy of my skin. What happens? We have here the cellular membrane. The cellular membrane has a voltage. And this voltage, it is positive or negative. Remember from the school, the extracellular matrix, positive charged. Intracellular matrix, negative charged. So my cellular membrane, my skin is polarized. It is, you see, as you see here, inside negative, outside positive. And when you break this balance, then the homeostasis of the cellular membrane is broken. That means the energy exchange between extracellular and intracellular is interrupted. So in this case, I take energy because the cell is programmed always to balance. If you change the physiology, it will balance, but consuming energy. So do you have to break this balance? No, you have to maintain this balance in order to have energy in the cell. And we know very well that the resting, we know very well that the cellular membrane has a 70 to 90 millivolts intracellular, extracellular. So 90 millivolts or 70 millivolts, according to the measurement, according to the books. So we have here to measure the exchange of the electrolytes to have the balance of my cellular skin membrane. What does it mean, this? It means that when I break this equilibrium, the pumps, the natrium-potassium pump, doesn't function very well. That means the skin, the product that I put in, it doesn't go inside. Supposedly that you have a vitamin C cream, and you want the vitamin C go inside. It will not go inside. It will maintain in the extracellular matrix, so it will not go to the cell. Because why? Because the cell has lost the equilibrium. This is equilibrium. That means there is no action-reaction. And when you choose now the cream or the serum, what voltage it should have? What voltage it should have? Because you have to know always, in order to know whether the cream or the serum is effective, you have to know the polarity of the cream or the serum, or what else? You will tell me, I do not know the cream of the polarity. What I will say? What else I have to know? The pH. The pH indicates the polarity, negative or positive. So I have to know the pH of the cream. And only then, if you know the pH of the cream, you know whether you will have active product or inactive product that takes energy or give energy to the cell for function. And a little bit, again, to the school. What gives energy to the cell? We have the cell. And the cell is no battery, I'm sorry. The cell is prokaryotic cell. That means it has nucleus. But what gives the energy to the cell? The cell is eukaryotic, okay? And prokaryotic is the bacteria inside the cell, that we have the symbiosis in the cell. So what gives energy to the cell? The prokaryote. That means the bacteria. So what I have to feed? When I have a cream on the skin, what I have to feed? I have to feed the prokaryotic bacteria that gives energy to the cell. And they only work when you have a balanced pH or polarity that can go inside or stay outside. And let's see now the prokaryotic cell. The prokaryotic cell is what we know as mitochondria. And what happens with the mitochondria? Everybody knows here that mitochondria gives energy to the cell. So what happens? If you break the physiological pH level, then the prokaryotic cell is forced to release energy to balance. That means you are losing cellular energy, because the cell always has reserve energy. And I will show you now how. Always the cell is programmed to keep the homeostasis. But this homeostasis, what it needs to go outside of the balance. That means has to go to it has to be hyperpolarized or depolarized. If it is depolarized or hyperpolarized, what is the meaning? The meaning is that the macrophages in both cases are activated. When you do peeling, what do? Do you activate the macrophage, yes or not? You activate the macrophage because you are taking energy. And if you are taking energy, what happens? you force the cell to produce more energy, to balance. So this is the meaning of the peeling. So in this case, you have to consider also that the ATP, you have to play with ATP when you apply a product on the skin, a cosmetic on the skin, also medicine on the skin. So you have to consider the ATP you consume or you give ATP. And what happens now with the controllers of the energy of ATP, which is the electrolytes. The electrolytes keep you hydrated, you see. If you want your skin to be hydrated, you have to keep the electrolytes balanced. Otherwise, you don't have hydrated skin and you don't have hydrated body. So what is important now? To know how to control the energy with a cosmetic. This is the most important thing. Because the cosmetic, if you don't know the polarity of the cosmetic, you do not know whether it's good or bad. And you can check now, for example, the cosmetic of pH 5.23 is equivalent in millivolts, 100 millivolts. So you have to know all this. Otherwise, you will not be able to control. And the important thing, why it is called acid model? I have the epidermis in the skin. We call it acidic mantle. Why? Because it is acidic. If the product is not acidic and it is neutral, what happens? What happens? You lose energy. You lose energy, so you damage the skin. You damage the skin. And because the epidermis and the microbiome on the epidermis is the first line of defense of the skin. And what happens? If I put the wrong cosmetic, what happens? The desmosomes here are getting relaxed. And then you have dry skin because the hyaluronic acid, glycosamines, the hyaluronic acid, it starts evaporating. Sorry? Previous slide. Okay. The most soaps and the cosmetics are negative charged. They damage the skin. It is very important to check the polarity in the pH of the product. Toxins take energy from the skin. Heavy metals take energy from the skin. Transplastic, the bottle, which is plastic, interacts with the product, and it goes to your skin. Important. The PVC that the cosmetic is packed interact with your skin and damage the skin. Dental infections also, and other factors damage the skin. Nobel Prize 2019 about the cellular energy and oxygen. So, I'm not going to go with this. So, makeup, moisturizers, negative charged, damage the skin. Day creams, with the wrong lipids oxidize the skin. The night creams are classical according to the lipids. If the lipids are not based on the omega-3, damage the skin, especially if the lipids are based on the omega-6, because we eat too much omega-6 that disturb the balance between omega-6, omega-3, and omega-9. And let's see now how we can have a healthy skin. Let's go fast. This is important. The hydrogen represents a balance of positive charged acid forming. That means a peeling. The peeling, which is the best tool in the hands of the doctor or the cosmetologist, is the best product. Why? Because you burn hydrogen to produce energy, like in our cosmos. Everything burns hydrogen to create energy. So I have to burn hydrogen here to create energy. And what is the best hydrogen product I have in my hand? Peeling. Peeling. But which peeling? Balance and not removed from the skin, not need to be neutralized. Because if you neutralize and remove, you damage the microbiome. Then you lose energy. So the correct use of the peeling, because if you don't use correct the peeling, you lose energy again. So it's not only the peeling, the correct use of the peeling. Okay. Cleanser damage, clean skin damage. And let's go now to the physiology of the skin. Okay. So, you know the epidermis, stratum corneum, here. This is the microbiome. This is the defense system. And we have to work with the stratum corneum and do corneotherapy. This is called corneotherapy. What is the corneotherapy? Corneotherapy is that I have to build the cellular turnover according to the physiology and according to genetic profile, because this cellular cycle, no battery. This cellular cycle is genetically regulated. So everybody of us genetically has a regulation of the corneocytes. So what is genetically regulated corneocyte cycle? 4 to 6 weeks. If this cycle becomes 7 weeks or 8 weeks, what is the meaning? No cellular energy to maintain the normal cellular cycle. If it is becoming faster, then too much cellular energy. In both cases, is not good, because too much or too little, it will change the physiology. It will create damage in the balance. Then we have to think always correct use. 5 minutes? No problem. Okay. So, the keratinocytes is the major cells of the epidermis. And who will tell me? Epidermis or dermis is important for my skin? Is more important for my skin? Epidermis. All the skin problems and skin cancers are coming from epidermis. So, should I inject inside or I should not inject in the dermis? You do mesotherapy. The mesotherapy has to be done on the epidermis with microneedling, not inject. Because the most important functional organ for my skin is epidermis, not dermis. Don't inject. always microneedling can regulate the epidermis. Melanocytes now. Melanocytes are in the basic membrane, genetically oriented, genetically regulated. That's why the most important melanoma cancer is coming from this balance of melanocyte. So remember, so melanocytes are distributed in the healthy skin or in damaged skin, upregulated or regulated, depending on what? Depending on how much hydrogen you burn or give energy to the cell. Epidermis. Let's go. Let's see dermis. Dermis is another thing, different functional organelles with a different cellular turnover. Remember, this turnover, epidermis, has a different turnover, cellular turnover than dermis. Different function and different pH, different everything. So let's see now what to do. The plasma membrane now, it's important to know, is opening for the delivery of the materials according to the physiology levels. If you break the physiology levels, the plasma membranes, the natrium, potassium, they close or they open. And the plasma membranes carries the proteins. And let's see now another thing which is important. How to reprogram the cell using the correct cosmetics. Okay. When you are young, when we are 20 years old, what is the cellular turnover we have? 20 days. And in this case, if I keep this 20 days, what happens? Healthy skin, no problem at all. When I age, when I become 30, what happens? My cellular turnover is becoming 30 days. That means I have lost energy. There is not enough energy. The cell to have a turnover of 20 days. That means I don't have enough ATP in the cells. So what I have to do? Peelings to make it shorter, to give energy, give hydrogen to give energy to have a shorter cellular turnover. So energy. When I become 40, what happens? I lose energy. So what I have to do? Give peelings. But if I do peelings too much, I burn the skin. So what I have to do to control? First, correct peeling, not remove the microbiome, and balance the peeling with what? Balance the peeling with what you know, carboxytherapy. That means alkaline products to balance, to give more oxygen, to give more oxygen. So you need to balance. So 50, more energy you need, more energy you balance. And then the protocol starts. Questions? Because you need, huh? Sorry? I have time for questions. I don't have time for questions. Okay. So thank you very much. Remember always cellular energy is important, and remember to use the peelings correctly, the creams correctly, and in order to maintain always the cellular energy for functioning the epidermis cellular turnover. Thank you very much.